Right now, as you are reading travel blogs and scrolling through flight deals, there are 75 countries that have either banned visas entirely, slapped on severe travel restrictions, or quietly changed their entry rules in 2026 in ways that most travelers have absolutely no idea about. People are showing up at airports with confirmed bookings, valid passports, and money in their accounts, and they are being turned away at the gate. Some are being detained, some are losing thousands of dollars in non-refundable trips. And the scariest part is that the information is out there, but it is buried, scattered, and nobody is putting it all together in one place for you. Until right now. So if you are planning any international travel in 2026, or if you know someone who is, stay with me for the next few minutes because what you are about to hear could save you from a very expensive and very stressful nightmare. Welcome to Global Entry News, your most trusted source for real, up-to-date international travel intelligence that actually keeps you informed and keeps you safe. If you are new here, please subscribe right now and hit the bell icon so you never miss a critical update like this one. We cover what the mainstream travel media does not, and today is a perfect example of exactly that. Let us get into it. The year 2026 has turned out to be one of the most complicated years for international travel in recent memory. A combination of geopolitical tensions, diplomatic fallouts, health-related screening protocols that were quietly kept in place after 2020, new bilateral agreements gone wrong, and a wave of reciprocal visa restrictions has created a travel landscape that is almost unrecognizable compared to just 3 years ago. And yet most people planning their vacations and business trips are operating with outdated information. They are checking visa requirements from 2023 articles, trusting travel influencers who have not updated their content, and assuming that because they traveled somewhere before without issues, the same rules still apply. That assumption is costing people dearly. Let us talk about what is actually happening and why it matters to you personally. The 75 countries we are referring to do not all fall into the same category. Some have issued outright visa bans for passport holders from specific nations. Others have introduced new mandatory pre-travel registration systems that must be completed weeks in advance. Others have reinstated health documentation requirements that most travelers forgot were even possible. And some have implemented digital entry authorization systems similar to ESTA in the United States or ETA in the UK that are new, that are not widely publicized, and that, if missed, will result in you being denied boarding before you even reach the country. One of the biggest shifts that nobody is talking about loudly enough is what is happening in parts of Southeast Asia. Several countries in that region have moved away from the easy, generous visa on arrival policies that made them backpacker and tourist favorites for decades. New entry frameworks now require pre-registration through government portals, biometric data submission in some cases, and proof of onward travel and accommodation that is more strictly enforced than ever before. Travelers who show up expecting the same relaxed process from 5 years ago are encountering something entirely different. In the Middle East, the diplomatic landscape has shifted dramatically in ways that directly affect travel. Countries that once had relatively open entry policies for certain passport holders have implemented new restrictions as a direct result of changing political alignments. What makes this particularly tricky is that these restrictions are not always announced loudly. They appear as updates on government embassy websites, they circulate through official channels, but they rarely make headline news until enough people have been affected. Africa is another region that is experiencing major changes, and not all of them are negative, but they require attention. Several African nations that are part of expanding regional free movement agreements have changed their entry requirements for non-African passport holders while simultaneously opening up more freedom for intra-African travel. If you are traveling to the continent without checking the current status of your specific passport against the specific country you are entering, you are taking a real risk. Europe, which many travelers assume is the most predictable region in the world, is also in flux. The long-anticipated full rollout of the European Travel Information and Authorization System, known as ETIAS, has changed the landscape for non-European visitors who previously could enter the Schengen zone without any pre-registration. This system, combined with the new entry and exit system that tracks when travelers enter and leave, means that overstays and irregularities are now flagged instantly in ways they were not before. People who have overstayed European visas in the past are now discovering that those historical records are affecting their ability to get authorization to travel to Europe at all. There is also something happening with passport power rankings that deserves your attention. The global hierarchy of passport strength has shifted more in the past 2 years than it had in the previous 10. Passports that were previously considered strong and widely accepted have lost visa-free access to significant numbers of countries due to diplomatic disputes and reciprocal measures. Conversely, some passports that were historically limited have gained new access through regional agreements. If your last mental reference point for what your passport allows you to do was a few years ago, you need to update that picture entirely. Now let us talk about the categories of restriction that are catching the most people off guard in 2026 specifically. The first is what travel authorities are calling enhanced security screening zones. These are not outright bans, but they effectively function as ones for unprepared travelers. Countries in this category require advance intelligence clearance, sponsor letters, or detailed itinerary submissions that must be approved before your visa application is even considered. The processing times are long, the rejection rates are higher than ever, and travelers who apply too close to their travel date are simply not processed in time. The second category is financial proof requirements that have been significantly tightened. Multiple countries across 3 continents have raised the bar on what you need to demonstrate in terms of financial solvency before entering. Bank statements are now being checked more carefully. Amounts that were acceptable 2 years ago are now insufficient. Travelers who cannot demonstrate adequate funds at the border are being turned back regardless of whether they have a valid visa in their passport. The third category, and perhaps the most surprising to experienced travelers, is health-related documentation. While the world largely moved on from the documentation-heavy travel environment of the early 2020s, several countries quietly maintained or have reintroduced health screening requirements. These are not always pandemic-related. Some are tied to specific regional disease outbreaks. Some are vaccination requirements that are not publicized widely. Arriving without the correct documentation in these countries can mean quarantine, fines, or denial of entry. The fourth category involves digital footprint checks that are now being conducted at borders in a growing number of countries. Border agents in certain nations are requesting access to travelers' phones and social media accounts as a condition of entry. Posts, messages, and browsing history have been used as grounds for denial of entry in documented cases. This is a legal gray area in most jurisdictions, but it is happening, and travelers who are unaware are caught completely off guard. What does all of this mean practically for someone planning to travel in 2026? It means that the standard checklist of passport validity, visa, and flight booking is no longer sufficient. Before any international trip, you need to be checking 4 specific things. You need to confirm the current visa and entry requirements for your specific passport, not a general article, but the official government portal of the country you are visiting. You need to check whether there are any pre-registration or digital authorization systems that need to be completed in advance and how far in advance. You need to verify what documentation beyond your passport is required, including financial proof, health records, accommodation confirmation, and onward travel evidence. And you need to check current travel advisories from your own government for the destination you are visiting, because these are updated in real time and contain the most current security and entry information available. The cost of not doing this is not just inconvenience. People are losing prepaid hotel bookings, non-refundable flights, and in some cases, entire itineraries worth thousands of dollars because they did not spend 30 minutes verifying current requirements before their trip. Travel insurance does not always cover denial of entry if it is the result of traveler error or insufficient documentation. The financial and emotional cost of being turned away at a border is significant, and it is entirely preventable. One more thing that is not being discussed enough is the increasing use of watch lists and shared intelligence databases between countries. Nations that are part of security partnerships now share traveler information in real time. A flag in one country's system can follow you to another country's border. This affects people who may not even know they have been flagged, perhaps because of a previous visa overstay, a border incident they thought was resolved, or even an administrative error. If you have had any kind of complication at any border in the past several years, it is worth consulting a travel documentation specialist or immigration attorney before your next international trip, because what you do not know in this area can hurt you. The landscape of international travel in 2026 is complex, it is changing fast, and the consequences of being uninformed are real. But here's the thing: none of this is impossible to navigate. People are traveling successfully every single day. The difference between those who travel smoothly and those who run into serious problems almost always comes down to preparation and current information. And that is exactly what Global Entry News is here to provide. We will continue to track every significant development in visa policy, travel restrictions, border protocol changes, and international entry requirements, so that you always have the most current and accurate picture before you travel. This is the kind of information that used to require a travel attorney or a specialist visa service to access, and we are bringing it to you directly, for free, every single week. If this video gave you something valuable, please like it, share it with anyone you know who is planning international travel this year, and drop a comment below telling us which country you are planning to visit and whether you have already checked the current requirements. Your comments help us understand what topics to cover next, and every question you ask helps the rest of this community as well. Thank you for being part of Global Entry News. Stay informed, travel smart, and we will see you in the next one.